Welcome to Web3 on Fire, where we take you on an inspiring journey through the ever-evolving world of Web3. In each episode, our host Rob delves into the heart of the latest innovations in decentralized technology, including account abstraction, smart accounts, aka smart contract wallets, and the future of work in the Web3 ecosystem. Welcome everyone to Web3 on Fire. Today on the episode, we have Martin. He's the growth lead at Syrup, part of Maple Protocol. So today we'll be talking about both Maple, their new platform launch, Syrup, and be getting into a ton of other fun DeFi lending protocol stuff. So welcome to the pod, Martin.
Great. Yeah, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. Cool. Well, before we get into product and all of that, love to find out just a little bit more about yourself, how you got into technology, how you got into crypto, maybe if there was a particular project that pulled you and got you super excited, or if you've just been a degen since day one. So yeah, love to hear more.
For sure. Yeah, so I learned about Bitcoin in 2015. So I bought a couple back then and just got really passionate about money and solving that problem. And then in 2017, really dove into Ethereum and obviously saw the future there. I really got professionally involved. Back then, I was still pretty young and still looking for what I wanted to do, but always just was investing, very passionately researching. And then in 2022, joined Maple, initially on the governance side, so more on the marketing team, and then quickly went into the operations team, and now leading up the growth efforts at the Syrup.
Awesome. So what kind of attracted you to Maple in particular? Obviously, they're in the finance space and in DeFi and a big player, especially in enterprise lending and that side. What was that? What excited you about them as a whole?
For sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that the main thing that really excited me was the financial nature of it and the institutional nature of it. So it really felt like a product that actually had product market fit and could scale into the world and really change the financial system. So I always had a heart for bringing transparency to finance, because obviously we have seen so much stuff go wrong in the past. While at the same time, like the really pure DeFi applications, like I think they're great for innovation, but it's a bit harder to really bring traditional finance onto that. It's a pretty steep learning curve. So I think Maple had the best of both worlds, where it really took the best of traditional finance, where most of our team also comes from traditional finance, like the professionalism, the credit underwriting, the due diligence, the operational procedures, risk management, all those things, which are obviously the good things about traditional finance, and then all the bad things, which is like lack of transparency. It's really slow. It's very cumbersome. It's not global. All those issues are then solved by the blockchain, right? Where you have, it's global. It's pretty much instant. It's fully transparent for everybody. The smart contracts actually possess a lot of the logic. So it's much more efficient in executing transactions and managing loans and things like that. So it keeps everybody honest. Plus, you can actually set the right incentives as well. So that really excited me. And I think that is the right product to build. And I was always looking for joining the right project for the long term. So I think that's what really drew me in.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like you definitely picked the right company in terms of that fit. Maple being, like you said, from traditional finance and really understanding those markets, the operations, the procedures, and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater just to create a new protocol to be experimental, which, like you said, is totally fine and fun. Solving real world problems, that's always a mouthful to say, is exciting. And also solving problems within traditional finance. I thought that was super interesting how kind of Maple got started in trying to understand how you can really automate and use smart contracts to take some of the monotony and manual labor out of actually managing, which is basically all manual spreadsheets and emails and manual communications. That's really cool. And I think practicality is very important in terms of bringing real value to the space and validity so that others in traditional finance and also others in the space can just point to more good examples of these companies and protocols doing interesting things and bringing real assets to the space. With that'd be really good just to get a broad overview of Maple itself, the beginnings of Maple and how it started. Just give us kind of broad strokes first.
For sure, 100%. For sure that. Yeah, fully aligned there. There's always this old joke going on of like all traditional finance runs on spreadsheets. And that's really what we try to bring on the blockchain. But yeah, so Maple, the one liner is we're an institutional DeFi lending and borrowing platform. And what that means is that we have institutional borrowers on one side who like to get loans to grow their business. And typically they have a lot of digital assets on their balance sheets, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, things like that they then post as collateral against which they take loans. So that's similar as Aave. And then on the other side, we have lenders who provide capital and want to earn yield on it. And at this stage, it's institutional, meaning that all lenders have to be accredited investors. So they are high net worth individuals, family offices, or yield funds or similar. So that's what Maple is. And then on the borrower side, we have the flexibility to structure loans, right? So we can have like open term loans or fixed term loans with different interest rates based upon collateral levels. We manage the whole loan book, right? So we have margin goals and things like that to protect lenders, as well as doing credit underwriting. So we don't just pick any borrower. They go through a rigorous underwriting process for us to activate them as an eligible borrower.
Yeah, so on that side too, that's super fascinating on the borrowing side in terms of what types of collateral or using different types of assets to be used. That was really cool just as a feature and also something that stood out as something very different. Can you go into that type of, because it's more about the protocol and it being used in a way that makes sense for the business, for the lender itself, or for the borrower in particular. So where does it all start? Obviously, you have these lenders that have the money. Does it start at the borrower level where then these deals are specifically made?
For sure. Yeah, that's a really good question. It's like the chicken and egg, right?
Yeah.
Like, where does it start? And that's exactly something that's actually like the biggest struggle, right? As you're trying to build a marketplace, similar like Uber, right? Like, where do you start, the drivers or the passengers? So you always have to start somewhere. And we typically do that as we start on the borrower side. First, structure a deal that we think is interesting, right? And then we go out to capital providers and we say, hey, do you think this is interesting? That's when we're trying to get a new pool off the ground, right? So we have basically the way it works is we have pools of capital and each pool has a different strategy. So we have one pool that's called blue chip secured, which is conservative. So just blue chip collateral like Bitcoin and ETH. And that earns, let's say, 12 to 13% net API approximately. Then we also have a little bit more of an aggressive strategy, which is high yield secured, right? Where we also accept then other forms of collateral. So not just Bitcoin and ETH, but could also be SOL or other types of collateral. So that issue mainly exists when you try to get the pool off the ground. But now obviously those pools are all off the ground. So right now anybody can just come in and it's just our challenge to match up lenders and borrowers. Now in general, there's obviously a lot of borrower demand, right? A lot of people want to borrow. We have a big borrower pipeline. So I think our challenge right now is mainly on the lender side, but that could also be different during different parts of the cycle. So we see that as pretty cyclical.
And
Because for
supply
example,
itself. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah, can you walk through some of the types of deals that you structure on the borrower side and some of those kind of unique cases or those that blockchain really enables, or maybe not necessarily blockchain, but the ability to automate or be able to see into, let's say, verifying that they have the assets or that their trading accounts are as they say they are and being able to track those things in real time?
for sure. Yeah, so I think to your point, that's the main one is if you go to Aave, for example, like everybody is treated equally, right? So you just deposit collateral and you get like the same rate as everybody else. And that changes every day. So the main two factors that we can work with are like how much collateral do you need to post? So is the how over collateralized does the loan have to be? So for the riskier borrowers or riskier types of collateral, we would put those wider, right? So if somebody comes and say, I want to borrow with Bitcoin, you're obviously going to get a tighter ratio than if you want to borrow against Sol or AVAX or something like that. So that's one lever. Then the other lever is time, right? So typically, the longer the loan, the higher the interest rate, because the more the uncertainty, right, of where interest rates are going to be in the future. And lenders typically also like flexibility, right? Like lenders don't want to be locked up for a year or two. So that's another lever is where if borrowers can lock in term, then we can also demand higher interest rates. And that's then something that lenders then need to be aligned on. So what we found the sweet spot is about like 30 days, which is sufficient for the borrowing side. and also sufficient for the lender side in liquidity terms. So yeah, those are the main factors. And then the other one that you could add is like the actual quality of the borrower itself. So if the borrower itself is very high quality and has hundreds of millions of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, then obviously we'll be more comfortable extending a loan at a lower rate than if they only have 50 million, for example.
Yeah. Now, what about the real world asset side of using some sort of asset that maybe accounts receivable or that part of their manufacturing cycle and leveraging those assets for those borrowers? Are there, it seems like these are unique case by case since you take on each borrower in this pipeline and kind of vet them and understand their unique circumstance as a whole. Are there some unique use cases there that you've seen or those that are interesting overall?
Yeah, that's a great question too. We have done some like tax receivables. That pool is still on the platform as well. So that is one type of financing we have provided. And then there's another one that we have done is like a Bitcoin miner pool where the actual equipment, the mining rigs are used as collateral. So that's another interesting case. But in general, I would say our core focus is really on digital asset backed loans. And we also think that is actually the best proposition, right? Because they're very liquid, like Bitcoin trades tens of billions of dollars a day. They are 24/7, 365, right? So you can sell them anytime in case you need to liquidate. So we actually believe that this market itself is going to expand massively in size, just digital asset backed lending. And that even in the future, as stocks and bonds and index funds and all these things become tokenized, that folks are going to borrow against all these tokenized assets, right? And these tokenized assets are also going to be traded 24/7, 365. So the way we really want to position ourselves in the market is by giving financing against those digital assets, and digital assets in the broader sense of the word, because we actually think it is the best form of collateral, right? If you have highly liquid, it always trades, that's always the best form of collateral, right? Because you can liquidate in time. So that's actually what we're really excited about. And that's the niche that we're really focusing on. And we think there's not many players actually doing that. So if you look to most other players, they are indeed focused on receivables and things like that, which is all very exciting and important. But we actually see a massive opportunity here. Also because the rates are very attractive. The flagship product like high yield secured is earning 20% or so net API right now, which is obviously very high and very attractive also for traditional investors. So
Yeah, nice. Very cool. That helps a ton to understand overall. So let's maybe go now into syrup and how did syrup come to be as a product of Maple, and was it again fulfilling a need, and how did that conversation happen and that need arise? And then obviously this protocol hasn't been out that long overall, so this is huge steps overall towards product and towards other sides. So love to hear more about syrup.
for sure. Yeah, we're really pumped too. It's like adding the syrup to maple, finally fulfilling our destiny. So I think syrup, obviously maple is great. However, it's only accessible for accredited investors, right? Which is a very small set of humanity. So now what we want to do is we want to give broad DeFi access, so permissionless access to those high quality institutional yields. And Syrup is the perfect way to do that. So Syrup is essentially just plugged into Maple, right? So it's the same yield, the same borrowers, the same loans. It's the same lending engine, which generated on average 15.7% API in the last 3 months, right? So that's also the target rate of the 15% for Syrup. And but then it actually does it in a DeFi way, right? Which obviously you have all the benefits of DeFi, which some of which we discussed earlier. But just to sum them up, it's like AMM liquidity, right? So you can instantly get in and out of your position. You can use it as collateral, like other DeFi protocols. So you can borrow against it and unlock additional liquidity. It enables like looping strategies, right? You can envision this being on Pendle, right? Where some folks can actually speculate on the yield of syrup, right? Like where is it going to go? It's going to go up or down, as well as the drips. So yeah, those are all really exciting prospects, and we think that this basically combines the best of both worlds. So all the institutional stuff we discussed, plus then all the exciting DeFi things that are enabled.
Yeah, which how do you see audience fit for this in particular? So obviously you have accredited investors on that side, KYC'd, and obviously with a certain amount of holding. So who is this for? And then yeah, is it going to expand or are there other features coming, et cetera?
For sure. Yeah, that's a great question too. Yeah, so indeed, on the Maple side, it's really institutional investors, white glove service. typically we get on the phone with pretty much every lender and have one or more conversations. They really want to understand everything in detail. And that's great for that audience. And that's also why we couldn't do it under the Maple brand, right? Because it's a very different offering. So Syrup is really for your DeFi native user, right? That loves to use DeFi as much as possible and loves to come up with clever strategies. So that's profile one. And then the other profile is somebody who has capital on chain and is just looking to earn like long term yield on it without too much hassle. They just want to deposit it somewhere, like a set and forget yield solution. And the reason that we think we can offer that is because if you look to our yield, it's much more stable compared to an Aave, for example. So we actually did an article on that the other day where we outperformed Aave by 5% consistently since summer. And the reason for that is because the loans are fixed term, right? So the loans are actually 30 days. So the interest rate on those loans is very consistent, which obviously provides then consistent yield for lenders. Where in other DeFi protocols, which is like utilization based, like the interest rates just go up and down, right? So you really have to actively manage your position. Where in Syrup, you can basically deposit it in. Okay, I'm just going to earn more or less this yield for the next whatever months or potentially even years. So that's really where we see ourselves in the market is for those two types of users.
Nice. So then how is Syrup tied to Maple? Are these the same pools that are for the institutional lenders, or is it a different pool just using the protocol itself?
Correct, indeed. So technically, it's a different pool on Maple. However, so it is segregated from Maple from that perspective. However, it is still the same borrowers and the same lending strategy and the same collateral and things like that.
Nice. Very cool. So then now with the launch of Syrup that just happened, is everything been rolled out? What's coming next quarter? Are there some exciting things overall that weren't necessarily in V1, or is this a super exciting public launch, et cetera? I know that it was public, but are there some exciting things to come?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, so the early access period is opening up very soon. Due to overwhelming demand, like we had to like roll it out in phases to make sure that everybody can get their seat and we can get it off the ground smoothly. So that should be very shortly in June. And then after that, we are looking to enable the AMM liquidity, get it activated as a collateral asset. We have a bunch of partnerships lined up with wallet providers where users of those wallets, could actually earn like additional drips. So really excited about that. And then we're going to look at just wider DeFi utility plus enabling additional assets. So we're just starting with USDC. We also want to roll out USDT and potentially other assets as well. So that's a bit of an alpha drop.
Nice. No, that's super exciting. So right now, about to launch early access, sign up essentially to get on that list so that you can gain access. So then launching
Sure.
with USDC and with some more assets coming soon. Nice. Can you
Correct.
talk about any of those partners or integrations or roadmap for that side, just in terms of what else you might be able to do? You mentioned the wallet and being able to earn essentially from just holding in your wallet, for instance.
Correct. Correct. Indeed. And then we would also be looking to add some like more like Web 2 applications where you don't even need like a wallet or something like that. You can just deposit through some type of like yield aggregator essentially. So
Nice.
that's not something we're looking at right now.
Yeah, curious on that side too. As Maple has been built out and then Syrup launching, has this been all not closed development, but in terms of private development, or is there some community involvement in terms of collaboration and contribution to code base, or is that kind of part of the roadmap? I'm just curious about how other people might be able to get involved from not just the financial side, but maybe contribution side or community, etc.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, we have a thriving Telegram, like Twitter communities, so we love our supporters. And right now it is mainly just like conversational and like we get a lot of ideas and like introductions and helpful marketing and things like that. Right now the code is still mainly developed in-house. We do have a bug bounty that folks can review the code base and come up with potential bugs. Knock on wood, we haven't had many yet, so that's good. But I think those are the main things right now to really get involved.
Nice. And then what about from maybe some institutional side too, or other folks that might be listening that would be interested in integrating either Maple from the protocol side or integrating with Syrup? You mentioned obviously we said the wallet side, but exchanges or swaps, or what types of other partnerships integrations are you looking for too? And
For sure, for sure. Yeah, so indeed, definitely exchanges, wallets, AMMs, basically anybody that's looking to provide yield for their user, or that has like some type of infrastructure that is often used by yield bearing tokens. So the syrup USDC token is just going to be a standard LP token that you would also see other places in DeFi. We are open to any and all ideas, right? That's also the beauty of DeFi, is that you can really innovate out there in the open, and you can people with different ideas can just some people just can start building, right? Like it's obviously going to be permissionless, so like anything is welcome.
yeah, that's cool too. I love that permissionless nature of everything. On that other side too, you're planning any kind of hackathons or ways of integrating people's ideas. Obviously, with a first launch, there's going to be a ton of bug squashing, and maybe seeding of new ideas comes later and gets thrown into the parking lot. But obviously, it's always fun to see community and see people build on top of or with other plans, like for the API or SDK to build on top of.
For sure, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, for everyone that's going to ETH CC, we're gonna have a big presence there as well, where we're actually gonna do like a really cool and unique event. I think that's gonna be so. Look out for the socials because that's gonna be really exciting. Right? There's also I cannot give too many details yet, but there's gonna be that element of it as well, of like collaborative building.
It's exciting times. Got to get the product out there and launched and get users, and then prove, squash bugs, bring new ideas in, bring more users in, all of that. It's a fun time, and launching a new product is always awesome. So you mentioned
100%.
ETHCC. Any other exciting events that are coming up that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I think it's mainly that one right now that's on our roadmap. We're gonna go to the other ones as well later in the year. I think there's gonna be some Asia ones, and then I think another one in the US. But I think this is really where our focus is on right now. So obviously it's gonna be in less than a month. So we're in preparation mode.
Yeah, same with Ambire. We're heads down. Absolutely got some exciting things planned. So that will be awesome too.
For sure, 100%. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I think the only one we didn't necessarily touch on was like the drips rewards. So that's another big one. So there's gonna be we call them like systems. So essentially like seasons where there's gonna be drips or rewards. So if you deposit, you can take different actions and use it in DeFi and things like that to earn drips. So that's another really exciting thing where we're looking for long-term community alignment. So I would say that's the main highlight. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so
hi.
nice, nice. Yeah, maybe just give the overview too of the how one basically depositing, getting basically depositing your USDC, kind of going through that, and then staking, and then getting drip rewards, or is the drip rewards also part interacting with other protocol, DeFi protocols, etc. So maybe just run us through that whole piece.
For sure, 100%. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna release a lot of detail on that soon. But the
Okay.
high level is you deposit and you get one drip per day per USDC. And then if you lock it up for a certain amount of time, so if you lock it up for 3 months or 6 months, you get a multiplier. And then if you actually use it in DeFi as well, so if you, for example, then deposit it into an AMM or into other DeFi partnerships, then you're actually going to get an additional boost on top of that. We really want to incentivize, first of all, long term users, right? Because that's also the type of user, as I mentioned earlier, the type of user that we really want to target and that we think this product is right for. So, therefore, the long term incentives. And then, as well, we obviously want to make sure that the thriving ecosystem is built around it, which then benefits every single user, right? Because it gives them more utility. So, that's another reason why we want to incentivize that as well.
Yeah, it's exciting just having the ability for any user that might want to also be long term or short term and have these incentives overall. You're across the entire gamut, which is beautiful. You've got long term, hardcore institutional, KYC'd, all of that side, all the way then to people that have interesting ideas in terms of how they want to play with DeFi and use products like this. So that's exciting for sure. Like, definitely have a lot of spaces for product market fit and various users and audiences there. So that's cool.
100%. That's exactly what we put on the drawing board when we started.
How can we capture all of this?
Exactly.
Nice. Cool. Let's just definitely give people the plug of where to find the product, where to find yourself, both maple syrup, and just plug away.
100%. Yeah, great. So indeed, so yeah, find us on syrup.fi, sign up for early access, and then deposit once it's live. And then we're actually on Twitter, syrupfi, at syrupfi. And then my personal Twitter is Fandonomics. So that's where make all my DeFi posts.
All the memes.
Exactly.
No, awesome. Thanks so much for giving some time and being on the podcast and talking all about maple and syrup as well.
For sure. It was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for tuning in to Web3 on Fire, brought to you by Ambire Wallet, the only Web3 wallet you'll need. Find it at ambire.com. Follow Web3 on Fire on Twitter, Warpcast, and YouTube. Find more episodes wherever you get your podcasts and mint episodes on pods.media.